Good morning. It's March 24th, 2025, and I'm doing this video today walking around because I've got a number of things that I would like to talk with you guys about today. Sue and I are going to be leaving the RV park that we've been in here for about 4 months now because the season is ending, and obviously when you're sitting in one spot as a full-time RV travel channel, you're not doing much traveling. And that doesn't mean that we don't have a lot of things to talk about and a lot of things to bring to you guys. So that brings us to today's video. So today's video is dedicated to all you newbies out there, because you know what? Everyone starts out being a newbie. And just because we've got 8 years under our belt doesn't mean that we had even remotely anything figured out when we first started. And that's what we're going to talk about, is what you need to know when you first start. At first, when I thought I would talk about this, I had a great idea. I thought, you know what? I'm going to gold mine my own information. We're one of those YouTube channels that actually replies to the folks that send us questions on the channel. And rather than send the typical one-word answer or the emoji or the thumbs up, which I think is actually a little insulting to the folks that spend the time to come and look at your channel, I actually read the question and answer in detail. Some of the questions are so complicated sometimes that there'll be 1 or 2 or 3 paragraphs that I'll write, and it became real obvious early on that if I didn't come up with a way to streamline that a little bit, I would burn myself out. So what I started to do is I would save these answers, and I would save them to the same document. It was called subscriber replies. And when I would craft something, however good it was, I would save the text. Now, I wasn't smart enough to copy the question right above the answer. I just have a pile of paragraphs that are separated by hashtags with the answer. And you know, quite honestly, anybody that's with the program at all can start to read the answer that I've replied to a question. You can kind of figure out what the question was. And so when I was figuring out if I was going to make an outline, to my amazement, I discovered that this document was 100 pages long already. We've only had the channel, I don't know, about 6 years. 100 pages long, 51,000 words. And it became obvious at that point that I would like to offer this to anyone that would like this document. I'm not promising that I would edit it a lot because it would take me 2 days to edit it. But I looked at it and it's kind of in a good enough format that it might even be fun reading. Howdy. So if you send me an email at ourjourneyinmiles@gmail.com, I will just unceremoniously send you this 100-page Word document, and it has answers to just tons and tons of newbie questions, and you might find it valuable. What I decided in this video is I just gold mined and picked out a few nuggets that we can talk about that will kind of set you up to put you in the right direction if you in fact are a newbie and you're thinking about the RV life. Remember that Sue and I are at the extreme end of the RV life spectrum. We're full-time, we're all in, we're living in fancy places like this during the season of snowbirding. We understand that the vast majority of RVers are vacationers, part-timers, some-timers, And it's only when you get way on this fringe, typically a retired person, that you're in the full-time mode. So this conversation is not necessarily tilted to full-timers. It's just, I guess, about how you start out being an RVer in the first place. Well, so what we did, my suggestion, is to learn how to use irv2.com as best as you can, where you search for the answers to questions you have about RVing. And you can do something as simple as put in the Google search box, best Class A RV, diesel, space, IRV2. You don't have to put the .com or anything. If you put the subject you're searching and you put IRV2 in the end, the computer is smart enough to get all of the answers from IRV2. And since IRV2 are all of the RVers that have been there, done that, bought the t-shirt, those are going to be the best answers. And when I did that, it looked like, for me, the direction that I needed to go. If I wanted to be in a Class A and I wanted to be in a diesel, I needed to be in a Newmar. And that's what eventually got us into our Dutch Star. Now there's tons and tons of information on the difference between diesel and gas, and you'll have to actually solve that question first, because the answer to that question tilts your expenses to the tune of about 100 or 150,000 more when you're going diesel. But I have to be honest with you. I would be doing you a disservice if I didn't tell you that no matter how much money you're going to save getting a gasser, if you're going to be driving across the country and you're going to be driving through the mountains, I have come to know the vast majority of folks that have bought a gasser that after that first trip, I'm talking one trip across the mountains, maybe two when they return back to their hometown, that they're all done with the gasser.
14%. 14%. Jeepers cranky. Alrighty. Never took my foot off the floor.
Right. I'm 20 faster.
I won't.
Faster.
I won't. Well, I'm 26 now.
That's good. Oh my God, good blanket.
Slower traffic, use the turnout. People are not in back of me. Alright. Wow.
It's got to be the 14% rate.
So think long and hard
Oh yeah.
whether or not you absolutely positively have to save that money, because nothing's worse than saving the money but then not using your RV. I think I'd like to add that when Sue and I came up with the crazy idea that we were going to be RVing, we in fact did not even have a tent. We never had a pull behind, we never had a fifth wheel, we never had anything other than each other. But we knew that when we retired, we wanted to travel, we wanted to be together, and we wanted it to be relaxing. And we kind of wanted to get out of Wisconsin because the weather had just wore us down to a bloody stump. And so in the end, when we were finally coming up with the rig that we thought we were going to go with, we initially started looking at fifth wheels and trucks. And we went to a number of RV shows, but one day had an epiphany that that wasn't for us, that we were actually better suited for the Class A setup. So as we were getting ready to pull the trigger and shoot the gun and spend all the money, I actually took a vacation week, flew down to the Tampa RV show, and sat in virtually every make and model that I had fantasized about when I was at home shopping for RVs at my computer. And I'm here to tell you that Eventually, with Sue, we went to some RV shows, and we would sit in rigs as if we were living in it, and we would be in the same rig. Ultimately, with the Dutch Star 4369 model, we sat in that thing for like 3 hours, might have been 4 hours, where we were pretending we were taking a shower. We would kind of sneak laying on the bed. We'd pretend we'd be cooking in the kitchen. I mean, this was an extremely expensive decision for us, so we didn't take it lightly. Now, I can tell you that that is my advice to folks. Do not buy the first 10 RVs you look at the first 4 or 5 RV places. Do your research. Remember, you're in the driver's seat until you pull the trigger and you buy something, and then you are stuck with it. And I will also warn you that whatever you buy, whatever style of equipment you buy, that dictates pretty much the expenses you're going to have in terms of housing it, storing it, maintaining it, insuring it, and financing it. So that sets in concrete an awful lot of your RV life. Let's talk about comfort drive, and remember all of these subjects that I'm bouncing around on in my 100-page document with the 50,000 words. I go in a lot more detail on these different things. I didn't want to go through it now because I'm only going to walk 1 lap and I'm halfway there. So mercifully for you, you're only halfway through the video. So if you stay to the end, you'll have the rest of the subject matter in here. One of the things that folks always ask me about is comfort drive and a tag axle. Do I really need one? Let's cut to the chase. Comfort drive is the absolute biggest game changer in Class A motorhome driving. I virtually have no fatigue in my shoulders and neck. I have no tense moments driving. I could just about fall asleep while I'm driving. It's so easy to steer. I can change it with comfort drive to steering the Titanic, to steering a go-kart, and everything in between. I have no fatigue at all, no matter how long I'm sitting in there from driving. My fatigue would come from just being old. So yes, comfort drive is a game changer. Another one that's a game changer apparently is having a tag axle. If you have a tag axle, you will not be blown away and blown around by any trucks on the roadway, and you will have no porpoising as you're driving on the road. You're solid as a rock. If you're a little hesitant and you want to get a smaller one, Newmar came up with the Mountain Air that I believe is only 38 feet long, and yet it still has a tag axle. So you might want to check that one out. In fact, I don't know what engine size it's in, but because it's in the Mountain Air frame, I'm wondering if it even has a 500 horsepower. I'll check that out and maybe I'll put something up above if I've got that goofed up. Another question folks ask is, how do we do our internet? And remember, we're talking as if you're a newbie. Everybody knows, oh, well, the best thing to do is to get yourself one of them there Starlinks. And we don't, to this day, we still don't even have that. We just haven't gotten around to it. And you know, quite honestly, some of the parks have had good enough television reception with the cable that we've been happy enough with that. Our internet service that we've used has always just been jetpacks. We have a Verizon jetpack and an AT&T one, so that we always have signal, so that we can always upload our YouTube. Maybe someday we'll step up and get Starlink, but for us, it just hasn't been a priority. We don't watch a whole lot of TV. We make TV, and that's probably what you're watching right now. So that's proof in the pudding. Let me look at my master list here so I can see what else I wanted to talk about. So when it came time to selecting a domicile, Sue and I looked at all the prevailing wisdom, and back then the way we did it is we would try to find blogs and articles that were written by other RVers and couples. I'm here to tell you it's a lot easier now. Once again, I keep harping, go online, write best domicile state for RVer space IRV2. Okay, the computer will search that question in the IRV2 universe, which is all the RVers out there that have been there, done that, bought the t-shirt. And you will find that there's only a handful of states that you want to use as a full-time RV domicile, if that's in fact what you are. If you're going to be sometime part-time or you're a vacationer, of course, you will just stick in the state that you're on. Every state seems to have its advantages and disadvantages. Some of them are getting new disadvantages. South Dakota, for the longest time, was very high on the list for people to use. But right now, as we speak, there's 2 laws that are going through the legislature that are going to make it very difficult or impossible for full-time RVers to actually vote. Now, why that bill makes sense to run through the state legislature there, I don't know, and I'm not going to debate it. I'm just telling you that that's the case. In Florida, we do not have to bring our RV back here every year to be safety checked and safety certified. That's the way it is in Texas. So if, for instance, you picked Texas without knowing that, you might have a surprise that every year you got to come back to have it certified for safety and road worthiness. You also have to have some level or some sort of a CDL license to be able to drive it. And that, for instance, is not the case in Florida for Sue and I. You can imagine how inconvenient that would be when you're in Maine or Oregon and all of a sudden you remember, oh boy, I forgot, I got to go back to Texas to have my license renewed. A lot of times folks ask about storage units, and those get a little tricky for a couple of reasons. If you are claiming your domicile in a different state than your storage unit is in, you can start to get in a little problem with the tax man if you would ever be audited. And you know, there's plenty of people out there that'll poo-poo that. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about it. You got to remember, when you have a YouTube channel, I have literally 30 emails a day that I get. So I get a lot of people that tell me their problems and woes that happen to them. So trust me, when you're claiming a state that's your domicile for tax purposes to save money on, for instance, your insurance rate, and I'm talking specifically about registering your RV in South Dakota, but yet you live in Minnesota and you think you're pulling a fast one, you're only pulling a fast one until you have a traffic incident, either an accident or speeding. Could be even somebody bumps into you in a parking lot or something. Once the authorities are involved and they start putting 2 and 2 together that your license plates don't match up with the license in your pocket, in your wallet, it gets a little dicey. We don't recommend it. That brings up another point. We had to come up with a domicile when we started RVing as newbies. Now, we lived in Wisconsin, and when we first started, we decided that we ain't ever going to live in Wisconsin because we were so sick of the winter. Now, I'm here to tell you 8 years later, when we're thinking maybe we're going to have to buy something someday because, you know, of health things that could be popping up. We're not saying they are, but we've got to keep in mind the realities of things. We're actually thinking about Wisconsin again because there was a lot about Wisconsin that we didn't appreciate actually when we were there. Now, to just show you that this is a real life video, I've actually dubbed in this dog barking here. It's not really happening. Well, okay, maybe it is a real dog, but in Florida, which is our domicile, we get all our mail sent to St. Brendan's Isle, and that's a mail forwarding service. We picked up on that tip by a YouTube channel that we would watch all the time called Technomedia. They're actually the people that run the RV Internet Resource Center. That's also the people that we trusted implicitly, and we still do, for all things internet and mobile RV. That's how we selected the Verizon and the AT&T plan that we have to this day. And we're glad we got it because we blow through about 350 megabyte per month on each of those plans. And they've served us well. Doctor visits. How do we handle that? Well, for the most part, what we've been doing with doctor visits is we've been planning and taking them all during one particular time period, and that's summer. So when we cycle back to the Milwaukee area for a number of weeks, we've got every single yearly visit planned. So it's a really busy time. And that's getting harder and harder to do because as our schedule slips, the date that our doctor's appointments are starting to overlap where it's not time yet for that doctor's appointment. So we'll work around that, and if it means we got to pay for it out of pocket, that's just the way it is. On the road, if you watch the channel for any amount of time, you know that I have two particular teeth, number 10 and number 9, that end up falling out on my upper front. And every time they fall out, I've got to find a dentist in the local area. Sue has had a couple of bladder infections that were pretty bad along the way. Ended up with a root canal on the road. Sue had an implant done.
Yeah.
Okay, just to clarify this, it was a dental implant.
I mean, you name it, we've had it already. But those are all relatively superficial things. I'm actually just coming off a really, really bad incident of throwing my back out. And I would say that was actually literally a week and a day ago. I literally couldn't walk. And it was scary enough that I thought, okay, this is the end of RVing. Well, here I am walking around holding a camera again. So it's just one of those things, not to portray that RV life isn't without its challenges. I mean, think about in your personal life, how many times when something happens, you just, get out the mental yellow pages and call somebody down the neighborhood that you've used 100 times already and you're comfortable with using. Storage lockers. That's something that people many times ask us about. Do we have a storage locker and what do we have in it? Well, I could tell you that when it came time to decide what we were going to do, we did have a storage locker, and it was about 10 by 15 tall by 30 long. It was a gigantic unit. I put a bunch of shelves in it and I started filling this baby up, and we were extremely ruthless in what was going in this thing because we only wanted the best of the best going in there. Well, lo and behold, we're about 3/4 of the way filling this thing up, and all of the advice on IRV2 was saying one of the worst things a full-timer, remember this doesn't pertain to the part-timers and the some-timers because you have your home, but the biggest thing was they regret having a storage locker. Now in our case, our storage locker would have been about $350 a year for 8 years so far. If you do the math on that, yeah, we would have been at almost $34,000 already that we blew saving a bunch of old stuff. So right before we left, we emptied out the storage locker, we gave everything away, and we never looked back. So that's our advice to you. If you're crazy enough that you're going into this head first or feet first, just like we did, and you're going to be a full-timer, you don't want a storage locker, just, jump in like we did. Get a lot of questions about me pulling a Honda Odyssey. Now, we have a 2013 Honda Odyssey that we bought with only 23,000 miles on it. I literally traded in two 2015 Honda Odysseys and bought this 2013 Honda Odyssey. Now, I was brave enough to pull a 2013 trim level EX-L, which is the highest trim level and the last year that the PV1A transmission is in, only because a subscriber named Rob, that I really trusted how smart he was when I saw him and all of his comments always on irv2.com. And I really trusted this guy, so somehow I was able to get his phone number and I corresponded with him, and he did not have any problems at all pulling it, and it was because of that PV1A transmission. And so I literally just follow a simple procedure to put it in neutral. I don't even disconnect any batteries or anything. It's just amazing. And so we've pulled that thing about 50,000 miles already, and we've driven it about 50,000 miles. So it has been very successful. We don't recommend you do it. I took a big chance doing this. The only reason we took the big chance is we wanted to pull a garage that we could put our fancy e-bikes in, which brings up e-bikes. We don't want to make anybody feel bad. We're not trying to bash the folding e-bikes, but I'm here to tell you this 73-year-old body driving on a foldable e-bike with the small handlebars that's straight as a broomstick and is basically a tiller type steering. It was just unbelievably uncomfortable to me. I'm talking, I get on a bike now, and in 2 strokes, I can't wait to get off that bike. The tires are too small. They're still very heavy for someone like me. They're kind of hard to handle with 2 people to get in the little spots where you think you can, because it's foldable. So a lot of times you kind of try to lift it yourself. I wanted a cruiser Cadillac ride, and that's what our e-bikes have given us. The brand that we have is the Elux bike. It's the Malibu model. It's a company that's out of California. They're fairly expensive. They're maybe nominally 1.5 times the price of your average run-of-the-mill cheap bike. A cheap bike typically is going to have cheap batteries, because that's where all the money is in the bike, and that's the worst place you want to have cheap, because lithium battery that goes up on you it's not going to end well, you know, if you have a fire. So I just wanted to warn you about that. My best advice for folks that are going to get e-bikes is go to a store that has about 50 different models, and when you walk in, tell the salesman you want to ride 40 of them, and hopefully you'll pick an e-bike store that is right next to a bike trail like we did. And I'm here to tell you that the bikes that we were certain we were going to buy when we walked in, we did not end up buying. We bought something substantially different, and we're glad that we did. Let's check the master list here and see how we're doing. So a category that Sue had me add to the list, and she's not on this walk, but I'll talk to you guys about it, and that is the importance of going back to visit your family. Now, there are many guys that are just as soft-hearted and just as family-orientated as Sue. I'm the type that I come back when I'm in town every year, and I'll visit and interact with the family and the kids. This year was actually the exception. I ended up meeting my son and his family for a great time when we met at Disney World. But normally I see them every year for 2 or 3 months, and then I'm gone again. Now Sue, to feed her soul, she needs to see her daughter every 5 minutes. But of course you can't do that. So then we tried to compromise. Then Sue wanted to do it every 5 days. I said, Sue, it's not going to work. Well, what we eventually came up with is every 3 months, she flies out from where we are and visits her family for extended periods of time. If you watch the channel for a while, you'll see that she was just gone for 41 days, the beginning of my stay here in the Cypress Trail RV resort. That was a little bit more unusual than typical, but nonetheless, that's how we deal with it. It's something that you want to make sure you are on board with your travel partner, because for the money, time, and effort you invest getting in this lifestyle, whether it's full-time, part-time, or sometimes, you got a lot of money invested. You got a lot of equipment that you changed around. You don't want to goof that up by one person being totally happy and just fulfilled, and yet the other person's soul is starving because something as simple as not having a plan for the travel partner, or actually you as a husband and wife traveling back and visiting the family for events that come up along the way. So just try to budget for that. So I think the last thing that I have on here is I could probably tell you about what we've got coming up. Before I do that, I think I want to remind you that this talk, no matter how disjointed it might be, the idea of it came from when I noticed that I had over 100 pages of responses to literally hundreds of questions. There's probably 2 or 3 questions that are answered on each page. So it must be more like 200 plus questions. So I would be more than happy to just send this unedited mess of answers to you. Might be actually quite comical for you to be reading it, especially if you've watched the channel for a while. At any rate, send me an email to ourjourneyinmiles@gmail.com, and I'll send you this document, and you can pick through it and see if there's any nuggets in there for you. So now, what do we got coming up for our travels until we park on the other end of the country, meaning Milwaukee, Wisconsin, for a couple of months? Well, I keep talking about the fact that when you RV, to us, it means having fun driving in between RV repair centers. And we have a bunch of things lined up. Some of them are redos on a repair gone bad. Some of them are maintenance. Some of them are improvements. So you can see off here to the side, I'm walking through a busy area on purpose. I don't want to show the pool so you get to see all the senior citizens in the bikinis and the Speedos that we typically wear. I mean, that's what we do. But yet, you can kind of see off to the side how great it is, and you see this tranquil scene in back of me where somebody's sitting on the dock. Actually, Sue was out there this morning. She took a walk like 7 o'clock in the morning, and she really liked that. We're going to be back in our hometown, I would say, for about, 2.5 months, something like that. Say, yeah, maybe even 3 months. And then we're going to hit the road on the way to our rendezvous point for our Black Hills Adventure Caravan RV tour that we're going to go on. We're really excited about that. Now you can tell by the sound here that it's pickleball heaven here. So I hope this was a little good taste of what you would get if you send for the 100 pages of answers to different questions that folks on the channel proposed. I think that's it. So hey, I appreciate everyone that's watched this far, and if you did, I think you should give us a like and a thumbs up, because why the heck did you stay this long? So until we get to see you on the road, or in a campground someday, or in the next month in a repair facility, we invite you to join us most Sunday mornings for another episode of Our Journey in Miles. See you then.